So I'm going to do a little tutorial on a couple of databases that you can get information that's open to the public that you can use for some of our in-class assignments. The first is the PA Future Ready Index. You actually, it's futurereadypa.org. You can see in the upper corner here. And I actually kind of started to, we're going to start from the beginning. So this is what the, this is what the home page looks like when you get on. And then you can actually go search by name, and I just put the Hempfield Area School District in. You can put any district in the state. You can, once you search, then you can actually look at the different schools. And I'm actually going to pull up our high school. You can actually look, you can compare schools. So if you had some other schools, or if you wanted to compare all your elementary schools, you could do that. But for the purpose of this activity, we're just going to look at the high school. You can see here that there's a lot of information just on this one page. You have state assessment measures, you have on-track measures, and college and career readiness measures. These are the way the state is looking at schools in lieu of just looking at PSSA and Keystone scores. So PSSA and Keystone scores are still being looked at here, but we're also looking at our attendance for students, our English language learner students. We're over here looking at college and career measures. So that's on this first tab, which is school performance. There are also some school district facts, fast facts that you can look at. Ethnicity, you can see this is a primarily Caucasian, white school district, smaller percentages of other ethnicities. You can see the percent of students enrolled in who are economically disadvantaged, how many students are in special education, also by gender. You can click on here to get some other information, some state audit reports, ESSA, school safety report, which I'm actually going to take you to, so that you can actually click on more information for that building. Then there's also some district fast facts, and it kind of gives into district-wide information. So the high school, you can see that economically disadvantaged is a little elevated at the high school instead of just looking at the total district. And again, you see this information down here for more information. We'll look at that in a minute. But we're going to go back to school performance, and I just want to show you a couple features here that people don't always know about. First thing is you can export the whole summary here, which will give you a lot of information about the whole school. If you're a person that doesn't like to be online and looking through different windows, you can just click this export summary, and it'll give you a nice synopsis of the school. You can also click here to go into more detail on any of these measures. So you can see here English language arts. If we wanted to break down student groups, for some reason, there it is. The student groups, and you can actually see some areas. The blues always good, blues and greens are good, reds, yellows, oranges not so good. And you can see here your English language learners, students, population, students with disabilities, is a downward red, which means it's not a good, it means that those students are at risk. They're not performing as much as the other students. Some of these areas you can see these different ethnicity separations. There are not enough students to disaggregate, so there have to be at least 10 students in any group for us to be able to disaggregate that. Go back here. So you can see that math and science. These are some PVOS information. And this is, again, this is through they look at cohorts, they look at over years, they do statistical analysis. And again, you see your students with disabilities are red, your economically disadvantaged students are red. Pretty much everyone's red, but also just keep in mind when you're looking at setting goals based on district or school data, you're looking for students who are usually or typically marginalized in some way, and making sure that they are getting equity of access and opportunities. So that's the second one. We'll go back. Another on-track measures is attendance. Here's your English language growth. These are our EL students. You can certainly look at that. You can also look at attendance, which is another big thing that school counselors can align their goals with. It's sort of I don't want to say an easy goal, but it's kind of one of those goals that you can easily align your goals with and do lots of great work with kids. So I'm having a little trouble with the website. So when we get to it, this website will actually pull up that same disaggregate group looking at attendance for the high school. Also, you have your college and career measures, something that school counselors, those benchmarks that we're looking at for all students that have to have at least 6 artifacts. We're also looking at graduation rates, which is really important. And when you look at the student breakdown here, this is very interesting. Our students with disabilities, their graduation rate is really low. So if I was a school counselor at this high school, I would be focusing some energy and attention on this group to find out why these students are not graduating with their cohorts, why they're not at the same level as all the other students. Also, it looks at industry-based learning. So do we give kids opportunities for internships, externships, etc.? And if you do, then great, and you can see that here. If you don't, then you should, and that might be something that a school counselor would work towards. Also, rigorous courses of study. We have the percent of rigorous courses, and then we have the statewide average. So this is a pretty high one for this particular district. But again, when you look at student group breakdown, you know, a lot of small percentage of kids with disabilities, smaller percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged. Not too bad, but still you want to make sure that you're giving all kids the same opportunities. And like I said, anytime you click on the student group breakdown, it'll give you like a disaggregate. This is how you really find where some of your areas of need are. The second one I wanted to show you was this is Safe Schools Hotline. I'm sorry, Safe Schools Online, www.safeschools.pa.gov. This is free, so you see I'm not logged on to my site, but you can look up any school in the state, and you can look at their Safe School report. You can look at their SAP reports. So you can look at historical reports. So really we're looking at last year, which would be 17-18. The 18-19 stuff is not out there. But if you're interested in looking at student assistance data, or you want to look at particular safe school data, and this talks a lot about incidents, this is where you can really kind of look at disaggregating by ethnicity or by learning disability. So we'll just pick a school. We go into public, so we look 2018, you go into a public school district. Let's just pick a first high school we see. So let's look at Albert Gallatin, that's not too far away. And I think this is the senior high school. So you can see it has their enrollment, how many incidents, how many offenders, incidents involving law enforcement, total arrests. You can see lots of information here about the disaggregation of the type of offenses. You can then see the misconduct categories, weapons, offender demographics, so you can see the age range for kids getting in trouble. It also disaggregates, by the demographics by gender, race, ethnicity, and status, and then who were the intruders, incident time and place, adjudication, did they get in trouble, remedial programs, parental involvement, all of that's here. Expulsions is here. Out of school suspensions. Lots of new information on out of school suspensions and in school suspensions and exclusionary practices, especially with children who are historically underperforming, and the fact that it doesn't actually help kids. You can see this truancy issue here. They've got about 1,000 kids in their high school. They have 363 identified totally habitually truant kids. These are kids with major issues with coming to school, which is a third of their students, which is super high. So if I were a counselor in this district, I would definitely be looking at this truancy rate. I would be looking especially over here at these 9th and 10th graders, because that's a large percentage of kids in 9th and 10th grade. Perhaps it's a transition issue. Maybe in 8th grade to 9th grade, they don't do enough transitioning for kids, to come to school. This would require more data research. I would be looking at, these groups over here. I would be wanting to support getting kids to school. So that's your overall for both data groups that we're going to be using to do our Closing the Gap activity.